in the autopsy that Epstein had at least 3 broken bones in his neck, one of them being the hyoid bone. Now, what is the hyoid bone? I have this story. This was published in USA Today by Morgan Hines. This is from Thursday. The investigation into disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein's death could hinge on a minute bone in his neck that, in the past, has shed light on whether a cause of death is a suicide or a murder. Epstein's autopsy reportedly showed multiple broken neck bones, the Washington Post wrote Thursday, citing anonymous sources. But the curiosity surrounds one of the broken bones, the hyoid. Though the bone is small, it's been critical in several high-profile cases. The reason? The hyoid can break when a person dies by hanging, particularly when a person is older, but it can also provide telltale clues that a person was strangled. Barbara Sampson, New York City's chief medical examiner who is handling Epstein's autopsy, said that the discovery of the broken hyoid doesn't determine anything. The cause of the financier's death is still pending. Sampson, in a statement to USA Today, said, quote, "In all forensic investigations, all information must be synthesized to determine the cause and manner of death. Everything must be consistent. No single finding can be evaluated in a vacuum." End of quote. The 66-year-old Epstein was found early Saturday, that would have been August 10th, in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. He had a bedsheet around his neck. According to the New York Post, he had tied the bedsheet to the bunk and leaned forward toward the floor to kill himself. Really?
Wow, that's talent.
So now let's go into what the hyoid bone is. It's a bone instrumental in tongue movement, swallowing, chewing, and other functions. During respiration, the hyoid is what keeps the airway open. In men, it's located near the Adam's apple. It anchors the larynx during vocal and respiratory movement, and its structure consists of a body and 2 pairs of horns, one larger and one smaller. It's shaped like a horseshoe. The hyoid bone is not the Adam's apple itself. The Adam's apple is outwardly protruding thyroid cartilage surrounding the larynx. Instead, the hyoid is located just above the lump-like area.
Ayu.
This isn't the first time the hyoid has been used to help determine a cause of death. A fractured hyoid is present in approximately 1/3 of strangulation homicides, that according to the National Center for Biotechnology Information. A broken hyoid is often used in evidence to determine whether a victim was strangled. Here's some examples. A woman in Maine, Roxanne Jeske, was found guilty in 2014 for killing her husband by strangling him. The strangulation was proven by a broken hyoid. In 2011, Rebecca Zahow died in California. She reportedly was found hanging from a balcony in a beachside mansion. Years later, investigators looked to the hyoid bone to theorize whether she might have been a homicide victim. Earlier this year, in Georgia, a man, Shenard D. Reese, murdered an older woman by strangling her. Reports cited that her hyoid bone was fractured. An unbroken hyoid is also occasionally cited as a reason to prove that an accused party is not guilty of strangulation. In a widely followed case in the New York City borough of Staten Island in 2014, police officer Daniel Pantaleo was accused with fatally choking Eric Garner, which we just talked about last week on this show. Pantaleo and other officers approached Garner, who they suspected was selling loose cigarettes without tax stamps. The officers attempted to arrest Garner, and Pantaleo put him in a chokehold. Garner died after going into cardiac arrest. But in a December 2018 release, the Police Benevolent Association said that their president, Patrick J. Lynch, called for charges against Pantaleo to be dropped since the hyoid was intact. Now, again, this is in light of video evidence of Pantaleo choking Eric Garner. Unbelievable.
It is.
The release said Garner, quote, did not die of strangulation of the neck from a chokehold, which would have caused a crushed larynx or windpipe and a fractured hyoid bone, end of quote. Pantaleo was found guilty of using an improper chokehold, but not of intentionally restricting Garner's breathing. Sampson, the chief medical examiner for New York City, oversaw Garner's autopsy as well. She concluded the strangulation was the cause of Garner's death. So let's get back to Epstein. Guards found Epstein unconscious after he had been taken off of a prison suicide watch, which supposedly happened several days after his quote-unquote first attempt. His death was called an apparent suicide by federal authorities. Cyril Wecht, a forensic pathologist, told USA Today that he's skeptical. Wecht said, quote, "Fractures of the hyoid bone are almost always associated with manual strangulation because a hand gets up high underneath the chin of the victim." End of quote. Wecht said that multiple breaks or fractures in neck bones are rare to find in suicide hangings. A fractured hyoid is possible from any blunt trauma to the neck. However, it is more common in a strangling than in a hanging. That, according to the National Center for Biotechnology Information.
Just conspiracy theory, Darren.
Wecht said, quote, "Fractures of the hyoid bone in suicide hangings are rare, and when you further keep in mind this was not a suicide hanging from stepping off a high ladder." End of quote. According to reports, Epstein had tied a bedsheet to the bunk and kneeled on the ground and then leaned forward to kill himself. That maneuver, Wecht said, is not conducive to breaking bones. Quote, "In majority of those, you don't see fractures because there's no great amount of force. It's basic physics." End of quote. Death would likely come from pressure applied to the neck and cut off circulation of nerves, particularly the vagus nerve, which is the 10th cranial nerve and the longest nerve in the body, according to Wecht. Questions surrounding Epstein's death and any outstanding circumstances, such as his guards sleeping through checks, still fester. And the bottom line, Wecht said, is that multiple fractures and suicide hangings are rare. Quote, "This case right now has very strong odor to it." End of quote.
It smells.
This is a forensic pathologist saying this.
Let's see how much that is promulgated, how much that story that we shared here on Southpaws is promulgated. If that doesn't stink enough, listen to this very brief description. This is by Tom Hartman, who has been, as far as I know, always trying to poo-poo conspiracy theories. Okay, but I know hardcore conspiracy theories advocates who switched on this one, who honestly laid down that moniker.
Yeah.
Epstein was hired by Bill Barr's father to teach high school girls. The same Bill Barr's father who just happened to write a novel about sex slavery. Epstein goes on to prosper in the sex trafficking business. He was making maybe $40,000 teaching the girls, all right? And by the way, people keep asking, where the hell did this guy make his money? That you really can't track where he got.
Well, he was a
his money.
financier.
But they say that, but when they look closely at it, it doesn't add up mathematically to the billions of dollars that he had. Nowhere near it.
Huh.
Meanwhile, Trump's close friend Epstein introduces him to Melanie Noss, and they end up married. Epstein then gets arrested, and Barr recuses himself because his law firm defended Epstein. Then unrecuses himself after talking with Trump. Woman files a lawsuit saying that Epstein and Trump raped her when she was 13. It's certified by a court. Following Epstein's arrest, reports come out that Barr's Justice Department now has hundreds of videos, movies, and pictures of Epstein's rich and powerful male friends having sex with girls he's been trafficking. Barr supervises the prison. I repeat, Barr supervises the prison Epstein is put in.
He was there just earlier in the week.
Yeah. Where he mysteriously dies.
Mm-hmm. Where are you reading this from? Tom Hartman?
That's called, I don't know if he wrote this or if he just, it's called.
What's the website?
It's the Tom Hartman blog.
Okay.
The Jeffrey Epstein case is weird.
Yeah.
There's too damn many coincidences there. If you can't tie together this picture, folks, you're not trying.
And let me just go into Cyril Wecht's credentials here. This is from his own personal website. Cyril H. Wecht, M.D., J.D., is a forensic pathologist, attorney, and medical legal consultant. He received his medical degree from the University of Pittsburgh, his law degree from the University of Maryland. Dr. Wecht is certified by the American Board of Pathology in anatomic, clinical, and forensic pathology, and is also a fellow of the College of American Pathologists and the American Society of Clinical Pathologists. He is a nationally acclaimed forensics expert. Let me read this here. Being an expert in forensic medicine, Dr. Wecht has frequently appeared on several nationally syndicated programs discussing various medical, legal, and forensic scientific issues, including medical malpractice, drug abuse, the assassinations of both President John F. Kennedy and Senator Robert F. Kennedy, the death of Elvis Presley, the O.J. Simpson case, and the JonBenet Ramsey case. His expertise has also been utilized in high-profile cases including Mary Jo Kopechne, Sonny Von Bulow, Gene Harris, Dr. Jeffrey McDonald, the Waco Branch Davidian fire, and Vincent Foster. A comprehensive study of these cases are discussed from the perspective of Dr. Wecht's own professional involvement in his books Cause of Death, Grave Secrets, and Who Killed JonBenet Ramsey, which were all published by Dutton Penguin. So he's an author as well. Folks, if it looks too simple, it's too simple.
Wow.
It really is. It's too pat, as the Lone Ranger would say. It's too pat.
I mean, I knew nothing really about the facts of the 9/11 incident. But a couple days later, I'm reading along that they found the passport of one of the aggressors just laying on top of the rubble at 2,000 degrees, a paper passport.
Mm-hmm.
I said, it's not adding up. Mm-hmm. And then when you connect the dots here, and you, as Rolling Stone has an outstanding article called What We Really Know About Jeffrey Epstein's Death, and you look at just the empirical record of what has taken place, you have to be lazy and inept and crazy not to see that this indicates without a doubt to be a murder.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to look at the articles that say guards heard shrieking in his cell. You don't have to go to the trash media. Just look at the actual facts, and you'll come up with the same conclusion that the man across the table and I have had. And a bigger picture, though, is the crimes that the deep state gets. Whether it's the whole burial of the guy in the foxhole. Remember they got him out of the snake hole or whatever and killed him, and they flew him back. Help me out.
I don't remember that.
You know, the leader of Iraq, for crying out loud.
Oh, Saddam Hussein.
Saddam Hussein. And then somehow he wasn't buried. He just fell off the ship coming across the Atlantic Ocean. Come on, folks.
Oh, no, you're talking about bin Laden.
Bin Laden, yeah.
Not Saddam. Saddam ran Iraq, but bin Laden didn't.
Bin Laden had the pictures, and every picture you looked at looked different. I'm not a conspiracy theorist with Martians in my bathtub, but by golly, I'm telling you that when you don't bring back the most infamous body and kill in U.S. history, and you bury him at sea, you got to think we're absolutely stupid. And I think we not only have amnesia, our political savvy is retarded.
So that's where you got those green glasses. It wasn't from Sharon. It was the little Martian in your bathtub, huh?
Hey, listen, there are shows that highlight conspiracies. One of them comes on at 2 o'clock every morning.
Yeah.
It's called Coast to Coast.
Yep.
With Norrie.
George Norrie. Who just got voted into the Radio Broadcasters Hall of Fame, I believe.
It makes a living on conspiracy theories. But guess what? Some of them are true.
Yeah.
You can't call a JFK assassination a conspiracy theory. You can't call 9/11 a conspiracy theory. You can't call the murder of Epstein a conspiracy theory. You can call it an opinion based on overwhelming evidence, overwhelming stark evidence. How many physicists have come out and said 9/11, the way we've been told it took place, is impossible? Mm-hmm. It's physically impossible. Thousands of them.
Yeah.
Signed affidavit.
Yeah.
So how do you call it a conspiracy theory?
You know why, Jack? Because we're in an age, especially now under Trump, that facts don't matter, science doesn't matter.
Oh, you mean the alternative fact atmosphere?
Yes, which is basically bull.
So any fact really has a built-in throw-out valve now. Just throw it out because there's another fact somewhere.
Yeah,
alternative fact.
Absolutely. I want to move on because we've got more things to talk about here. And I'm sure we'll be talking about Epstein in the weeks to come. But I want to get to this story from Al Jazeera. I want to read this here. This is an update. we'll lay the background out.